Good morning. How are you guys today? It is another Monday, and once it's Monday, it means we're here with uh, my segment. My segment has got so many, different things on it. So today we are looking at the whole topic around neuro leadership, which is such an exciting topic, and today is no exception. We're building on a subject that we've been running with. It's called neuro leadership coaching, and specifically, I'm looking at the topic of attitude, behavior, and results. In short, mind power. Now, I should have uploaded some pictures to show you, but I'm not able to do that. So I will literally just speak and you will get it. So remember, if you're joining us for the first time or if you've been following us, make sure you share this video. Even if you're watching the recording, share this video to somebody and help them, just be able to learn how to manage the intricacies of the mind and the brain and how it works. And today we're looking at something called brain apprenticeship. It's an absolutely exciting topic. But before doing that, remember, we come every 3 days, or sort of 4 days of the week. We're still waiting to get the fifth. It's not in place, but we're getting there. So Mondays is yours truly. Tuesday is Dr. Sunshine Sylvia. Wednesday is Market Day. And this Wednesday, I believe it's her that is doing a market presentation. Then Thursday, we have Dr. Nelly with Prosperity for Your Soul. So those are the four major days which are set. The fifth day, we're still working around it. It's supposed to be health topics or health tips. We are working with somebody who's going to be soon part of what we're doing, and they will be able to take over that particular day. Now, today I want to really rush into the topic I've been running. I am running a full class on this. So those of you that are serious about becoming part of the program, you can actually become part of it. It's called the Neuro Leadership Coaching class. You can see it scrolling down there. That particular class, I think your mic is on, so you need to mute yourself. So that class is particularly running every Monday. So this evening, the class is on, and you'll be able to take advantage of it and be part of it. But the class obviously comes at a fee. If you're interested in being part of the Neuro Leadership fee coaching class, you can register using the link shared, and then you can become a part of it. It is a bit of a costly class, but hey, the stuff that we're teaching there is just absolutely cutting edge. And speaking of cutting edge, today I am dealing with the topic of attitude, behavior, result, the power of the mind, or mind power. And we're going to go deep into the brain apprenticeship around this, and this will be my last topic on this particular field. I'm not going to go beyond this because I will switch into the quantum quantum leaping and quantum steps and things like that, and then that's where I will continue. But for those of you that are dead serious, we go very, very deep in the topic of neuro leadership and neuropsychology. I am so excited about even what is happening. I had it's a very small class right now that I have. I've got about 5 students. It is a bit of an expensive class, so I understand. For Zambia, it's expensive for Zambia. But that class is so exciting. And I remember 2 people asked to drop out because it was just too much, so it was going to drop to 3. Then when they said they're dropping out, I said, don't worry, you paid, because both had paid some deposits towards the class. So I said, you know what, those deposits you paid are worth 2 extra classes. So you attend those 2 classes, and then you can drop out and join in the next session. I assure you, both individuals said, Rev will look for the money. I mean, when they went through the lessons, they just said, this is absolutely revolutionary. We will look for the money. That's how powerful this class is. Now, I'm doing it because I need to go through and sharpen my own teeth and learn everything there is to learn, because I was taught by one Satchmo, which is a really powerful coach that really took me through the steps and showed me what this field is. So today, let me begin by speaking about the model of life. There's what we call the ABR. So ABR stands for attitude, behavior, results. And I want you to know today that behavior is a symptom. This is the first thing that a lot of people don't understand. Behavior is a symptom. Behavior doesn't just come about. Whenever you find individuals behaving or exhibiting a particular trait, just know that it is a sign of something deeper. one of the greatest challenges that occurs for me, I'm actually a neuropsychology therapist as well, and I will tell you what we do with therapy, the difference in therapy and counseling, because a lot of people tend to think they are one and the same. They are not. Counseling deals with the behavior itself. It deals with the exhibited fruit. But therapy goes to the root and deals with the root. So a lot of people don't understand that behavior is an exhibition of root. So there's a root behind behavior. So if you're counseling, for most people, you're counseling or dealing with the fruit. But you see, if you cut off the fruit, new fruit will grow in its place. My friends, this is the reason why a lot of people will go for rehabilitation, will go for counseling, but will revert back or renege back to their old behavior. Why? Because the counseling doesn't tackle the roots. So there's a famous saying, the roots determine the fruits. So if you see certain characteristic behaviors manifesting in individuals, there is a root for that. And what you want to do is get to the root. So good therapists usually first identify what the root is. So if you see somebody, for example, drinking heavily, let's take the most obvious, alcoholism. Alcoholism is usually a coping mechanism. Individuals revert to drinking alcohol excessively to cope. So the question is, cope with what? Cope with issues going on inside of them. So many of them have some form of trauma or situation going on inside of them. And so in order to shield that, in order to hide that, what they do is they resort to drinking. So the drinking is this form of self-medicating. No, that's not the right word. It's a form of medicating or calming or pacifying the pain. And they hide it by going into this temporal state of pleasure, which makes them forget the pain. That's what causes the drinking. So the drinking isn't in and of itself the source of dealing. No, you deal with the hurt itself, which is inside. So when we talk about ABR, attitude, behavior, results, that's exactly what we're talking about. So think about it this way. If you look at an iceberg, that bit that you see on top is usually 10%, and then the real monster of the berg sits underneath. So in other words, only 10% is what you see and 90% you do not see. So that 90% sits in the subconscious mind, and that's how the two work, the conscious and the subconscious mind. 10% is what you see there, 90% is what you don't see. That iceberg at the bottom, that's the roots. If you look at grass, what you see on top usually is 10%. And then the grass, the roots go 90%. They are very deep. They are maybe about 10 times, 5, 6, 7 times further, longer than the grass itself. So the real source of behavior isn't what you're seeing, i.e. the grass or the tip of the iceberg. No, it is the hidden underneath stuff. That's where the real behavior comes from. That's the source of the behavior. So at the source, so what causes behavior? Attitude. So what is attitude composed of? Attitude is composed of two things. It is composed of thoughts and emotions. So what a person thinks and what a person feels will always inevitably influence how a person behaves. So this is also true in the work environment. If you see certain cultural manifestations and behaviors, you're looking at the fruit. So what is the root? So you need to get down to identifying what precisely the root is that's bringing about this unbecoming behavior. So the thoughts and emotions determine the behavior, and it is the behavior that brings about the results. So when you do not have these balanced out, you always end up having a situation where the individuals will definitely manifest undesirable results. So the real question that many people should be asking themselves is, how then do I go about changing behavior? It's not an easy process. If it was, every Tom, Dick, and Harry, Jim, and Jack would do it. It is certainly a process, and there is a technique to doing so. But there's a saying that forewarned is forearmed. So in other words, just knowing what's going on. That in itself creates a high level of awareness. So awareness is a big deal. What happens with most people is they're not even aware of these unbecoming behaviors. Even when they are pointed out, most times people will justify to sustain their bad behavior. And justification is a form of cognitive blindness, or if you like, distortion, but even more appropriate, dissonance. So in other words, an individual goes into an antagonistic position in refuting anything that's pointed out because they just don't agree with it. So let's move into some so where does this all come from? It comes from the brain. So we're going to do a little delve into the brain today. I don't know how far I'll be able to go with this, but the brain is just one of the most amazing things that God has ever created. And today what I want to do is just give you a bit of a background to the brain and how it works. And once you understand how the brain works, this will give you a phenomenal concept and idea on how behavior comes about and why certain behaviors are the way they are. There's a whole bunch of reasons why that is so, but we'll try and do what we can in these few minutes. Obviously, if you're really interested in the deeper stuff, I just suggest that you join the class. Now, the brain is divided mainly into two parts, although there are three. There are three segments of the brain. And by the way, before I start even talking about the brain, I must hasten to mention that the brain is essentially, one of the biggest challenges a lot of people have is distinguishing between the brain and the mind. So let me give you an insight today which will really help you understand. So if we were to use a computer or a phone as an analogy, then your brain would be the hardware, or what on the phone they call the firmware. So your hardware. So that's what the brain would be. In fact, if you use the computer, it would be the motherboard. Like for me, that's it. The motherboard really exemplifies the brain. And then if we were to look at the mind, we would equate it to specific software. It's the operating system. It's the thing, it's the overarching program that allows you to run that hardware. Because if you don't have the operating system, it's just as good as a piece of hardware. There's nothing to it. You can't do anything on that thing. So it needs to have software, which would now allow it to be useful. And then it's the software in which you now attach programs. So programs, if we had to equate it to the mind, would be the equivalent of what we do when we learn skills. You learn how to ride a bicycle, you learn how to drive. All those are programs, but they are installed through learning. So the mind is the software. It's the one that manages. Now, what's interesting about the mind and the brain is that the mind has specific areas within it which operate in specific preferred areas within the brain. So we know that certain parts of the brain process pain, certain parts process pleasure, certain parts process mechanical movements or whatever. Everything about the brain is very well organized. And so this is where now I bring in the illustration to help you understand. So there are essentially three parts of the brain. The prefrontal cortex, or the cerebrum, so cerebellum. So the prefrontal cortex, then you've got the limbic brain, and then you've got the lizard brain, but I'm not going to talk about the lizard brain today. Medulla oblongata, no. So let's focus on the two. So we've got the PFC, which is the thinking brain or the logical brain, and then we've also got the limbic system, which is your subconscious mind. Now, for the sake of understanding, the thinking brain operates 5% of our waking lives, between 5 to 3% of our waking lives, whereas the limbic system operates 95 to 97% of our waking life. When we are awake, most of the things that are going on are being controlled by the subconscious mind, or the limbic brain, or the limbic system. So let me give you three definitions of each one. So when it comes to the prefrontal cortex, or the PFC, it is the logical brain, it is the thinking brain, and it's the one that deals with the future. So I'll say that again. It is logical, it is the thinking brain, and it's the one that deals with the future. So that's your thinking brain. That is your prefrontal cortex. That is your conscious mind. That, by biblical standards, is what we would call the will. Note that. So your will sits where? In the prefrontal cortex. Then you've got the limbic system. That one is first emotional, then it's the feeling brain, and it's the brain that deals with now. It is what the Bible refers to as the heart. So remember, your thinking brain is the will, and your subconscious mind or the emotional brain is your heart. So now that you understand this too, you need to understand a few details about the thinking brain. So let's think deep into that. Number one, it is the high performance center of your brain. In fact, we call it the executive center. What does that mean? It's the one that makes decisions. So remember what I say, what did I call it from a biblical standpoint? The will. So the mind is where the will sits. So this particular section of the mind is where the will sits. So it is the will that then determines what goes on and what happens as far as thinking and making decisions is concerned. Remember, the will is the one, or the logical brain or the thinking brain is the one that deals with issues of the future. So it's the one that says, hey, should we do this now or do it later? It's the one that determines when to do things. So it's the master controller of what we call inhibition. It is the one that delays gratification. Now, it also makes us different from animals, by the way. By the way, it's very interesting, some details about the thinking mind. First and foremost, the prefrontal cortex only matures between 18 and 25. That's a whole powerful reason for that particular bit of information. It shows us that for most young people, their capacity to think of the future is extremely limited because their prefrontal cortex has not fully developed. So remember that the prefrontal cortex or the thinking brain is the part which manages inhibition and delays gratification. The reason younger people can take risks more readily is because this part of their brain is not so solidly functional. So they can take more daring risks, they can do more things that don't really make any sense because they don't think much of the future. Why? It's not developed. It can also be influenced, and this is the part I like about the thinking brain. It can be influenced through education and training. And that's the reason why the Bible says, train up a child in the way it should go. Now, I'm not talking about children here in the child mind, but I'm just talking about the fact that even teenagers need serious guides. That's the reason why any children, any teenagers, any adolescents who do not have a strong mentor figure or guide will inevitably flow into error. Inevitably. They really will mess up their lives because they will make very bad choices. Why? Because they have no capacity to think well due to the fact that that part of their mind is not well developed. This is why I completely disagree with people who say, no, children are little adults, give them the ability to make choice. They have no capacity to make choice. In fact, when they are, I'll go deep into that when we're doing the quantum leap stuff. But I'll tell you, when they're between the age of 3 and 7, they are complete like sponges. They just absorb everything. They have no barrier. They have no judgment. They have no capacity to determine what's good or bad. They are just completely blank. And this is why it is very deadly to just allow any child to grow without guidance. So the guidance comes in very much, and that's why I mentioned what I mentioned here. That's why we speak about what we speak about, because for children, they need to be guided. So again, we've seen that the subconscious mind the conscious mind can allow an individual to be well trained and guided, which in turn allows them to be molded into a specific direction. So you ought to be very careful with young children, not to let them just be, but you must have a strong guide. Further, it is this part of the brain is the one that delays gratification. So the ability to make choices and say, I will not take it today, I will take it next week, I'll take it next month, or whatever it is, this comes purely from this component here, that the thinking brain, the executive brain, can allow them to make those choices. Now, very quickly, let me talk about the emotional center of the brain, which is your subconscious mind, which I called earlier the heart. Now, when the Bible talks about the heart of man is excessively wicked, it is relating to the subconscious mind for very good reasons. I haven't got time to go into it, but you'll get to know it if you ever become part of the class or when you join on the Quantum Leap stuff. Now, this is the emotional center. It is the one that manages threats and rewards. So it's the one that manages threats and rewards. It's the one that when a threat comes, it will manage it at a very speedy way. If something pleasurable comes, it will also react. It uses a very specific criteria to do that. And by the way, it will always overrule. Listen to me. The subconscious mind will always overrule the prefrontal cortex or the conscious mind. So when the two are pitted against each other, the conscious mind versus the unconscious mind, and there's a situation that's a threat, usually the subconscious mind will quickly kick in and react faster than the thinking mind. In fact, the thinking mind doesn't even know what's going on, and the subconscious mind has already reacted very quickly. So why does it do that? Because it is the difference between life and death. Thanks, Uncle Steve. It's the difference between life and death. If you do not, if this subconscious mind did not take over threats which come, you would be dead. We would be dead. I would be dead. So it is this ability for the subconscious mind to quickly react before the brain can think that is the difference in life and death. And so this ability is very critical and very important. But unfortunately, there are a lot of issues that then kick in, which we will not be aware of, that can actually cause this to work negatively. But that's not the topic right now. So if the two were in a confrontation, the subconscious mind will take over by a factor of 75%, and it always wins. It always wins and overrides whatever the thinking is. That's why, you know, there's a video I like to show on this stage of the what we call the Bushman prank. So notice that in all Bushman pranks, if you watch them, people are walking in the street minding their own business, and then this plant just stands up and starts walking. Now, what happens is automatically people jump in fear and react out of fear, and only later realize it's a prank and a joke, and then laugh, and then just become easy. But at the point of reacting, they are reacting at a subconscious level. It's not something they think about. That's why they'll scream and make noise, and then only later realize, you know, but by then the subconscious mind already took over, because that's the difference in life and death. It is there to keep you alive. If you didn't do that, you'd be dead, I'd be dead. So this subconscious mind taking over and for survival is very important. But it has some serious detrimental negatives later on. I'll show you. Now, two basic principles of the brain. One, and I need to hurry up because we've got 3 minutes to go and 3%. You know what? My phone may go off before time. I'm on 3% reach. So if it reaches 1%, I'll just stop. Anyway, so two basic principles of the brain. Reward circuits kick in whenever you have a positive experience, or dopamine, and unfortunately it doesn't last long. Oh.
Okay, Rev has gone, as he was saying that the phone was going to go off. So we're here just to make you understand that these things do happen, and we just need to be in that, on that, not think, and the brain will just get to understand or to just take whatever it is. So the examples that Rev has given are real examples where we actually just need to follow through and make sure that whatever we're doing is good. So I think it's also time, and we end here and see you tomorrow with Dr. Sunshine Sylvia, and we're going to make things happen for you. Stay tuned and listen to prepare for tomorrow, so we get on the things that we need to do. So thank you for joining us. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Okay, so I'm back. Apologies. Let me see if I can add back Auntie Sylvia. All right, apologies. I literally ran out of power, of juice on my gadget. I thought I would last without. My apologies. Let me wind up now. Apologies. That was a long break. So, like I was saying, the subconscious mind, there's something very unique about the subconscious mind. When a positive event occurs, what the subconscious mind does is it will learn from it. But the reward circuit kicks in whenever, and I say again, whenever you have a positive experience, which is usually dopamine induced, but it's more than just dopamine. But it's dopamine induced and doesn't last long. It's usually about 5, 10 seconds, a minute tops. Whereas when you go through a negative event, the threat circuit kicks in and it produces cortisol, which lasts far longer. Now, the setback with that is that because cortisol runs longer, we will develop what we call a negative bias, and we have a 9-to-1 negative bias for negative events. In other words, a negative event processes 9 times faster than a positive event. Now, there is something very important about that. Even though it sounds off the cuff as a negative, it's actually very important because it has to do, like I say, with survival. The only setback, though, is that it is a negative event, and so it sticks, and then it puts us in a state where we operate from the realm of fear. And finally, of course, the unfortunate part about all this is that the more emotionally invested one is in a given situation, the less critical, objective, or observant they can be. So, on that note, my friends, that's a few lessons about the brain. If this is something that you find very interesting, follow that link that has been scrolling and then find out, go and fill up the form and become part of the Neuroleadership class. But on this point, I do apologize again for that power outage on my gadget. I really did think it would last. I should have thrown my from the word go. But on this note, guys, have a great day. Tomorrow, Auntie Sylvia is here. She will be running with her usual slot, which is the Mindset Change program. On that note, have a great day, guys, and God bless. Cheerio.